Thanks, Kimon. Let me get my... Oh, it's up. So before I start, I just want to thank Helen for the invitation. I want to thank everyone at FFV. When I was presented with this opportunity, I didn't have to think much about it. I've always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to come back and give something back to female soccer here in Melbourne and just soccer in general. You know, if you look at the big picture, you might think that a lot of my success has come through the States, but I really attribute a lot of my success to my upbringing here and basically the lessons I learned here and the downfalls that I went through and the mistakes that I made and the positive things I saw and the sportsmanship that I learned here that I was able to carry overseas when I went there. And you know, that I'm still a Melbourne boy, and a lot of the tough-nosed Australian sort of attitude I carry with me every day, and I try to build athletes with strong minds, and I think a lot of that came through not only soccer but through football, through watching our rugby players, our cricket players, and without a doubt here in Australia we do have mentally tough athletes, especially the ones that are playing at the highest level, and I learned from them and they inspired me. So just a little bit of history. Yeah, I grew up around here. I grew up in Preston, you know, a little kid that just loved playing the game. My first club was actually Bundura Soccer Club, where I played from 10 years old to 15. From there I was recruited by Clifton Hill Soccer Club. I played there from 15 to 17 years old. I actually managed to make my debut for the senior team at 16, playing against, it happened to be at the time in a Doherty Cup game against the Melbourne Croatia at the time. Still to this day it was a blur. From there I actually got recruited by a club that was emerging called Parkmore Soccer Club, that was run by world soccer legend Ferenc Puskas. I got a letter in the mail, and I went out there and checked it out, and the man himself was there, and I played there for a year. I actually captained the side, and I was blessed to kind of be under the tutelage of a man of Ferenc's stature. After a year, he got recruited himself by South Melbourne, and he gave me a call and said, I want you to join me. So I moved over to South Melbourne. Going there, I knew it was a big task because at the time South Melbourne was a big powerhouse. I think 8 of the 18-man squad was current representatives of the Australian national team. Me being a centre midfielder, battling it out in the youth team. My competition was Paul Wade and Mike Peterson, 2 legends of the clubs and guys that were regulars in the Australian national team. Anyway, after a couple of years of fighting it out, I realised that I'm really not going to crack this team, and I kind of gave up on my dream. And I just thought, you know, I'll just go back, play at Clifton Hill, where all my mates are, and just look for something else to do. So that's what I did, and I played at Clifton Hill for I think 6-7 years, and then from there I went to Northcote, and through that time I went overseas like a nice little Greek boy. Went back to Greece to see where my parents are from, and on my journey through Greece I met a young lady that was from New Jersey. We fell in love and established this long-distance relationship that lasted about 5 years, going back and forward, and I finally decided, look, I'll come over there and I'll give it a go, and I'll see what it's like, and we'll see what happens. But when I went there, I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know, you know, am I going to have to join the workforce? What am I going to do? So happened to be kind of a funny story. I was out the front of our house with my wife's nephew, just kicking the ball around, and he's a little 5-year-old, and I'm trying to teach him how to juggle and kick the ball. And some guy drove around and drove past, saw him slow down, and he just kind of drove past, and saw him, went down the street, did a U-turn, came back, stopped, got out of the car, and he goes, "Hey, you play soccer, yeah?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm doing a camp tomorrow, and we have 200 plus kids. Do you want to come and give us a hand?" And I said, "Well, I've never really coached, but I suppose I can help." He goes, "Don't worry. If you don't know what you're doing, just copy what the guy next to you is doing." So I said, "All right." He goes, "I'll be here 7 o'clock, 7 a.m. to pick you up." Picked me up. I was all nervous. Got to the field, 200 plus kids, start training. And some of the stuff that they were doing didn't really resemble the kind of training that I was used to. I thought I was going to walk into an environment where it's full-on training, and it's, you know, we're doing the skills, and it's disciplined and respectful, and everyone's concentrating and so on. It was kind of like more of a babysitting camp. So they ended up giving me a group of under 8 girls, and I had them from 9 to 3, which is a long time, Monday to Friday. So anyway, I basically was looking around at what everybody else was doing, and I wasn't too impressed, although it was my first day on the job. And then I started to design my own stuff. I started to look back in my memory and kind of think about what my coaches did as a kid and so on, and I sort of went renegade and started doing my own thing. And after about a couple of hours, I remember thinking to myself then, wow, these girls, they're real good thinkers. They're really soaking it in. They're great students. By the end of the week, the team had improved unbelievably, and the girls won me over. I just went in blindly. I thought I was in for a long week, but the girls ended up winning me over by their attitude, by their willingness to learn, and I didn't treat them any different, I don't think. I think if I had boys, I would have treated them the same. And I just discovered this mind in these young ladies that I thought, wow, you can really mould these young ladies. So from there, I did a couple of weeks with this camp company, but I didn't like the quality of the training. So I started researching, and I thought, oh, I like the coaching thing, and maybe I can make a living out of this. So I did some research, and I discovered Major League Soccer, which is equivalent to A-League, Major League Soccer camps. So I called them and applied for a job. I got the job, and I went to work with them, and they weren't really stimulating me neither. But what I discovered in that 1 month period was that out of the 20 kids that I was given, or 18 kids that I was given on a weekly basis, there was 3, 4 that now I've labelled soccer junkies, and everybody else was kind of an activity. And I loved working with the kids that I knew had the passion. Like those 3, 4, they're the ones that kind of I enjoyed, and the other ones I can tell they weren't really into it, and they were there because it's just an activity and so on. And that's where I drummed up the idea, and I said, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing, but I'm only going to focus on soccer junkies. So nothing against kids that are playing activities just in general, but that's what I wanted to focus on. So from there, I started my journey. And what I did was I spent a ton of time reading. I think the first 2, 3 years, I was reading everything under the sun about coaching. And I really got a good insight into coaching, and I discovered that, you know, you need a methodology. You need something that's clear in your head, and something that's clear that you can explain it to a young kid and they can understand it. So I developed what I call now the 5 pillars, which is what you see on the board there. Okay, and you're probably familiar with the technical skills, which is, for me, technical skills means not doing tricks and flicks. It's being efficient with the ball, which means not making mistakes through the simple stuff. Okay, taking risks, doing something crafty, yeah, you can make mistakes, but for me, a technically sound player is somebody that doesn't make mistakes. So technical skills, tactical awareness, which is what you do when you don't have the ball, your movements without the ball. Physical power, which is having a body that can outwork the opponent. Mental toughness, which is your game day mentality. And then character, which is doing the right things when no one is watching. So that was the general methodology, and when kids walk through the door, I look at them through the 5 pillars, and you'll find that every kid that walks through the door, they're lacking in one of those pillars. Something's missing. So then the whole idea was, based on the pillars, each kid that walks in, whatever they're lacking in, assisting and providing an environment for them to improve that pillar or those pillars that they're missing. Okay, now I can tell you, because Kimon brought it up, I'll give you an example of Carli. Carli came to me as a rejected under-21 national team player. She had been rejected from the under-21s. She actually quit the sport completely, looking for a job, and happened to be somebody got hurt in the under-21s, a midfielder, so she got invited back in. She got the email, we come back into camp, and the camp was in like 3 months' time. And her dad was convincing her to play again, and she didn't want to play. It happened to be I'm working with a team, and her brother was on that team, and the father saw me working out there, and came up to me after training and said, "My daughter needs you." So I grabbed Carli, and after she called me about 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, and I evaluated her. And at that time, when you look at her through the pillars, technically she was great. She had the skills, because she used to play on the street, play with boys, and she had just amazing skills in tight spaces. Tactically, she was smart because she was really savvy, again, because she played on her own. But physically, she wasn't at all fit. Mentally, she was a player that got frustrated on the field, and her character, which is what you do when no one's watching, was really non-existent. So she had 2 of the 5 pillars. So I was able to paint the picture for her and say, look, you got these 2 pillars, but these 3, you're no good, but good news is they're fixable. And if you fix them, you can go on and become an amazing player. In fact, I told her from then that you can become the best player in the world, because I saw her skills and her tactical awareness was unique when you compared it to the rest of the women's national team. So that's an example of taking the pillars and looking them through your students and designing a program specific for them. So, like I said, you guys are probably familiar with the first 3, but it's the last 2 that I've spent the last 20 years, I'm not going to say perfecting, but just relentlessly learning about. And still to today, I still read about mental toughness and character. And I've actually reversed the methodology, where what I would do now is I build the player's mind first, and then I work on the feet. So when my students come in, we work on the mental toughness and the character first, and then once you get that established, now you've got an athlete that knows how to think. that knows how to make sacrifices, knows how to be resilient, knows how to deal with adversity and so on and so on, and I'll go through that in a minute. So I found, not only with Carli, but also a lot of the other top athletes that I've had the opportunity to work with, they all walk through the door, they come and see me, and they think that what I'm going to fix is their skills, which I do improve, but it always goes back to repairing their mind. Because along the way, their coaches neglected that as kids, because not many people even pay attention to it. They just measure skills, tactics, results, and kind of stick to those categories. Nobody's really going into their players' minds and dissecting their mind and helping them build a strong mind, because that's what you need at the top. Okay, not only that, you know, we've all got an obligation to build outstanding athletes and human beings, more importantly. Okay, so when you build a mind, you are building a good human being, and that's what's important, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So what is mental toughness? Okay, for me, it's having control of your mental state. Right, and the biggest issue is kids don't know that their mind is actually even a subject. They don't realise that they should be preparing the mind and should be thinking what the mind thinks, should be dissecting it. They don't even think like that. All they do is they think about their touches. So knowing that your mentality plays a key part, that's the first step, okay? In the game, thriving under pressure. Okay, again, mental toughness for me is game day. Okay, so while you're playing, you should be talking to yourself. Before the game, you should be talking to yourself. When things occur during the game, you're talking to yourself. Okay, and that leads to, especially on games where you go down a goal or you go down 2 goals, the mentally tough athletes thrive under pressure. Mentally weak athletes fold, or they start complaining, or they start worrying about things they can't control. Okay, but the mentally tough athletes, they actually thrive. They're able to elevate their game, and that happens through communication, self-talk in their mind, and they're like, I want the ball, give me the ball, I'm going to make this happen. Okay, but again, if you don't know that your mind's a big part of this, you're never going to look for that. It's blank. We have a technical error. It's not working. Yeah, I did. Okay. Okay, how to improve the mental toughness? Okay, analysing game decisions. So when I'm coaching players, not only am I analysing what they did on the field with their skills and without the ball, I'm actually watching to see what they're doing mentally and what they're thinking. And I'm having those discussions with the kids. It's not just, you know, we talk about, oh yeah, good bender there on that goal and so on. I'm actually looking for moments, mental moments in the game that I can extract and discuss with the student and help them become mentally tougher. Okay, a lot of coaches don't talk about that, right? But you need to, every decision that you know, we go down a goal, like I said, kids put their head down, you need to grab those kids that put their head down and have a word to them. Or, you know, the opposing player gets in your face, get angry, give him a shove, get a yellow. That was a mental lapse. We need to discuss that. An altercation between teammates, that's a mental thing too. You need to discuss that and dissect it and talk to your athletes about it. And that falls in the emotional state as well. So ripping the game to pieces isn't just, you know, analysing tactics and the technical component, like I said, it's also the mental component. Okay, some of the mental toughness skills. This is just some of them. So relaxed and confident. Okay, a lot of kids show up to the field, or a lot of players show up to the field all hyped up and so on. Really, the best way is to be relaxed. Okay, and being relaxed and confident, it really comes from preparation. Okay, if your players have prepared, they've had a great week of training, they've mentally visualised the game that they're playing, or the game that they're in. They show up relaxed, they show up confident, and they're able to perform. But being relaxed is key, and studies have found, the more relaxed the player is, the more they're going to perform. They're zoned in on the game, which is basically, you see the top athletes, they've got their beats on, and they're completely zoned in. And when they're zoned in, they're actually visualising what they're going to do. So if you're a centre mid, you should be visualising winning those tackles, linking those passes, being creative, getting forward, all the roles and responsibilities that you have. Okay, defenders, the same, winning your headers, winning those tackles, good balls out of the back. You've got to visualise and prepare your mind for the battle. Same way we prepare our bodies through nutrition and stretching, and during the week our touches through training and so on. We've got to prepare our mind as well, and that comes from being completely zoned in. Adaptable. Okay, you know, the game I think is changing, where there is no real set formation, and everything changes through the course of the game. There's teams now, I know that the teams that I work with, and I know that a lot of the teams overseas, they can play up to 3-4 formations through the course of the day. You can show up and, you know, the field's narrow, it's bumpy, you've got to play different. You're 10 minutes in, somebody gets a red card, now you've got a different game coming up. So mentally strong athletes are ready to adapt, to the day, and then within that day they're able to adapt again. This is a big one, especially for girls, worrying about what you can control. Okay, I can tell you, when Carli walked through the door, that was the main thing that I realised about her. You know, talking about the coach, the coach likes these players, likes this type of player, you know, the girls, their cliques and so on and so on, and she was complaining to me about things that she really had no control over. So that was one of the first things that I established in her. Worry about what you can control. If you can't change it, don't let it in your mind. And I actually live like that. That's why I don't watch the news. So worrying about what you can control will take you far, take your athletes far, because they do waste a lot of time worrying about things that they really can't control. Worry about yourself, make sure you're doing the best you can, because that's all you can really change. You're not going to change the coach's decisions. You're not going to change a poor referee. You're not going to change your teammate that's not focused. So worry about you, your performance, because that's the only thing that you can control. And then the last one is competing against yourself. I can tell you, so I'll talk again about Carli, World Cup final. She doesn't even know the name of the players that she was playing against. She didn't look at the team sheets and say, oh, I'm playing against so on and so on. She was competing against her last performance. The semi-final game was Germany. Her goal for the World Cup final was to play better than what she played against Germany. That was her goal. And that mentality also is the same for training. train today better than you trained yesterday. And that's your competition. That's who you're competing against. And when you can do that, now you're building layers of improvement. Okay, it's not about the opponents. Like I said, it's about you. Okay, next one, character. So what is it? So doing the right things when no one is watching. The reality is, the kids, we see them, or your athletes, we see them probably, if we're lucky, 5% of the time. The rest of the time, they're by themselves. So you need to teach your athletes to do the right things when no one is watching, because it's so much time. It's easy for kids to walk in and basically do the right things at training in front of you, but if they're going home, they're not practicing on their own, they're eating junk, they're not sleeping, they're partying and so on, then they're not going to have success. So I try to make it clear to my athletes that I'm not going to make you into a champion. It's what you do on your own that's going to make you into a champion. I don't have enough time with 3 or 4 sessions a week to turn you into an amazing soccer player. It happens by what you're doing on your own. Being coachable. Okay, for me, I teach the kids how to be coachable by finding moments where they are asking questions, where they are taking instructions, and I make it a note that, you see, Carli or Mary or whoever, I love that you asked me that question, and I let everybody know. So now I'm inviting players to have an open door with me. If we play a game and we're like, hey, we're going to play a certain way, and there's players that do play that way, I let it be known that so on and so on and so on played to our game plan and the rest of us didn't. So you reward the players that are being coachable, and that's a key component. Okay, how do you improve the character of your players? You got to know your players. So what I do is, you know, we have, like tonight, it's a rain day. I heard that, yes, during the weekend it rained a lot and everybody's cancelling practice, right? So like a night like tonight, I would, at least half the players, I would meet up with them, sit down with them and talk to them and get to know them. Get to know about their life, get to know about their upbringing, get to know about their lifestyle, what their support staff, support crew is like. Get to know them. And when you know them, now it's easier to manage them and it's easier to build the character that you want to build in them. Focus on the well-being of your players. And I know it's been mentioned here today. In the States, it's 0.036% of players end up being pros. 0.036. So when we coach, we focus on building the human being first, because most of them aren't going to be pros. So you want them to have great tools that they can learn through the game to be successful in life. Because the way that I see it, if you're late to practice, you're going to be late to work. If you don't respect your coach, you're not going to respect your boss. If you can't get on the same page as your teammates in a fun game, how are you going to get on the same page with your workmates? So use the game as a tool to create good human beings, because that's what's more important than the actual developing of star players. Because a lot of people, you won't even get a player that's going to end up being a star. But there's nothing more rewarding than kids coming back 10 or 15 years later and saying, hey coach, you know, I want to thank you because you taught me all these values through the game that have helped me in life. So investing in the human being, I think, is more important than anything. Okay, character skills of a champion. Make sacrifices. So that's a big one. I know growing up here, that's one thing that me and my mates didn't do. We want to play, and we'd also want to go out and have whatever meal we wanted to, and we wouldn't make sacrifices. But at the end of the day, you can't have everything. You've got to make sacrifices. And I'll refer back to Carli. In 15 years, she's missed out on probably at least 10 weddings of her best friends. She has spent on, not 2 years ago, 265 days living out of a suitcase, away from her husband, and so on and so on. You know, what's right for Carli is, yeah, she'd love to have a bad meal, have a meal that's not healthy. She'd love to have some beers with her friends that go out and so on. But you can't have everything. So teaching your students how to make sacrifices is key, okay, because you can't have everything. Placing team goals in front of personal goals. Okay, the reality is we've got squads of 18 at least, and only 11 can play. So through communication, you know, and it's a hard one to win over, you need to explain the importance of, it's not about you, it's about us. And from coaching females, okay, boys are a little bit different. If boys sit the bench, they kind of get angry, and they just tense up, and they're just waiting patiently, and they come off the bench, and they try to prove your decision wrong. Female athlete takes it a little bit more personal, wants to know why, feels like she's no good. So you need to make sure that you explain your decision and reassure them that, no, there's nothing wrong with you. I'm just going with these 11 because of this, and this reason. So that's a tough one, especially in the female game. Invites criticism. And I know we've mentioned in here about praising. I love to praise, but I believe your responsibility as a coach is to find what's wrong. And it's about the delivery. And it's about your players knowing that you're telling them what they're lacking, not because you think they're a horrible soccer player, because you do care about them and you want them to get better. So I actually search for negatives in their game, but I make them, again, feel like it's not I'm not telling you because I don't like you, I'm telling you because I really care about you. And the female athletes tend to buy into it, and then they end up inviting criticism. They like it. They come up to you and they ask you, Coach, how did I do? What could I have done better? And so on. So character athletes definitely invite criticism. They're disciplined and consistent. What that means to me is, so we all started beginning of the season and everyone's gung-ho. We have a good pre-season, everyone's there early, everyone's making the sacrifices and so on. But a disciplined and consistent athlete does it the whole year. And I challenge my athletes, can you keep up the same intensity, the same dedication the entire year? I need you to be solid all the way through, not start up here and then go down, or start slow and we reach the end and go high. So staying disciplined is just being consistent all the way through, because at the end of the day, that's what makes a great soccer player, being consistent. being able to execute things over and over again. Playing 3 good games, 3 bad games, it doesn't work at the highest level. You've got to be able to perform over and over again. Okay, has a strong self-image. So the way that I word this with my my athletes is I tell them to think about themselves as a business. And how do you want to be seen? What type of athlete do you want to be seen as? You want to be seen as disciplined, hardworking, coachable, and so on. You need them to think outside and think to themselves, okay, people see me a certain way. How is that? How do you want to be seen? And I'll actually make them write that down. What's your self-image going to be like? And then once they realise that they put it out there, this is the image that I want, they work hard to maintain that image. But if they don't have an image, self-image, they kind of just coast along. And the last one is short and long-term goals. So I give my athletes goals that I know, the short-term ones, that are definitely achievable. And that's the key. You don't want to create goals that are not achievable. Short-term, like as in within weeks, goals within months, goals within years, and all things that you know you're the one that should dictate to your athletes what those goals are, but make sure that they are achievable. So now there's progress, and when there's progress and they feel like they achieve the goals, it continues to inspire them and it continues to push them along. So there's some of the things that I instill mentally in my athletes, and I've found that my athletes are mentally strong, and I think that's why they excel. And at the end of the day, like I said, it's about producing outstanding human beings. That's the most important part. And I'll leave you with this. We good?
We do have some time for questions. I think we've got enough time for 2 questions. Tessa and Joe. Who's up first? We'll give them at least 10 seconds. Oh, here we go. Maria Berry.
Carli's going through is playing in a challenging team at the moment. How does some of your lessons and work with her specifically apply to playing in a team with challenges?
Like what she's going through right now? Yeah, so she's 35, and at the next World Cup she's going to be 38. And, you know, we know that the coach thinks that she's not going to be fully ready or capable because of her age, even though she's the fittest she's ever been. But yeah, it is difficult because I do hear it. She goes into camp and she's not with the starting group, and they play games. She's coming off the bench and she's used to playing all the time. Yeah, it's just being there for her, not letting her put her head down, making her feel that she still has a lot to give, and the most important thing I tell her is just make sure that you are the hardest working player on that field every single day. And I think by doing that, it puts the coach in a very difficult situation, because it's hard as a coach to not select the hardest working player. You as a coach lose credibility. So that's where we're at. She's taking it day by day, and yeah, just outworking everybody, and hopefully she gets her chance and proves that she still belongs on the field and has a lot more to give.
Thanks, James. Just a lot of what you've talked about there is about, obviously your work is with older athletes, elite athletes. Have you got any tips on how you can bring some of that back to younger players when you're talking about goals and mental toughness and things like that? The kids have got the whole world before them, they don't know things yet, so building resilience is obviously important. How do you break that down for them?
Yeah, so first of all, I treat the boys and girls equally. The only difference is I know that girls like to feel like you're in their corner and that you're there for them. And I also found that if they feel that you're working for them rather than they're working for you, you get a lot more out of it. Now, with all this stuff, I start this stuff even at 9 years old, where at the end of every training session, we pick a word and we talk about it, like competitive. So you sit the kids down and, okay guys, we're going to talk about being competitive. Now, what does it mean to you? I got the whiteboard there and I let the players, they start giving me feedback, start writing things up on the whiteboard, and I let them extract the answer, so I've got them thinking, and they're kind of helping each other because of their given feedback. And then at the end, I wrap it up. Next training session, we'll come back and we'll talk about another word. It might be coachable. What does coachable mean? And so on and so on. So I start from a really young age. It's not like, you know, just work on skills in the beginning and be done with it. Right from the beginning, we start on the mentality piece because, like I said, that's what takes you the furthest. Good? Yep. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, okay?